Welcome back. So the hashtag Tshwane Dima campaign has received mixed reactions from members of the public in the city. The city, of course, led by Mayor Nasiphi Moya, disconnected electricity at Weskoppies Psychiatric Hospital on Monday. The move is part of the Metro's revenue collection model, which targets customers with outstanding bills. Well, we hear comment now from the EFF Tshwane caucus whip, Mr. Godwin Ratikwane. Thank you so much for joining us, and a good evening to you.
Good evening to you and the viewers, Nadedi.
Okay, so this is actually quite a concerning issue, because you've got the campaign that has been around for a while, you know, trying to get revenue and money back for what it is owed. But just the EFF's reaction to the news that Weskoppies Psychiatric Hospital was disconnected.
Yeah, look, it's a very unfortunate situation. I mean, as the EFF, that's not what we stand for. And this is not something that we actually would like to promote nor defend. We believe that, you know, that kind of institution is what you classify as an essential service. And therefore, we must always exercise caution whenever we're dealing with that. In fact, we would further argue that such institutions must not even be part of the load shedding grid. Whenever you release your schedules, they must always be left out, because we understand their importance in society, because they're actually affecting the vulnerable and the defenseless.
So what do you think then needs to be done to ensure that you are able to protect vulnerable sectors and sites like Weskoppies? I mean, that needs to be resolved, obviously.
Yeah, look, I mean, you know, the EFF was not involved in this particular operation, and the EFF in general supports the Tshwane Dima campaign, because there's a lot of private businesses that are owing the municipality a lot of money. And if these particular businesses don't pay the municipality, then you're going to have a problem whereby the municipality is not going to be able to function efficiently and deliver services to the poorest of the poorest and the residents in general who are paying for the service. But then in this particular instance, I mean, we are not happy with that. And we believe that there's other measures. I mean, you can litigate even if you want to litigate against the other different sphere of government, which would then be province in this case. You can even go out there and ask for mediation and do various other things to ensure that government collaborates. I mean, at the heart of this thing, people just use the term government loosely, but there's different spheres of government, of course. In this case, the residents of Tshwane should not be able to feel the pinch, should not be told that this is this sphere, this is that sphere, because at the end of the day, government should be one, is the state. Now, as to the responsibilities that are then allocated to different spheres, I mean, it's not even the business of the residents to be entangled in such politics, because at the end of the day, all they want to know is that they're interrogating with and interacting with government, and therefore they should be able to get the services. Which government? It doesn't matter whether it is national, it is provincial, or it is the local government, such as your municipalities and so on.
Yeah, because... Yeah, sorry, apologies, because you've got the Gauteng Health Department that has said that they've acknowledged there was a 1.2 million rand debt that resulted in really this disconnection. But saying that the money owed to the city, the processing of that payment was underway. So what does that mean about communication of government officials to government officials at provincial level, certainly all the way down to cities?
Yeah, it's lack of collaboration. I mean, if you check the Commander-in-Chief's statement and many addresses that he has sent, even the manifesto of the EFF, we're saying government is not integrated. I mean, they don't mind to give you SASA and come and take it via electricity when you are actually qualifying for indigency, for instance, in that you're not supposed to be charged for certain kiloliters of water and certain kilowatts of electricity. But because there is no integration between government, even just at one level or sphere, I mean, you know, the Department of Water might not even speak to the other department, and then they work in silos in such. There's no proper planning together, and therefore it becomes a problem. But I think the dirty laundry of the city of Tshwane and the provincial government should not be a matter that should be keeping us busy. What they should then do is that they should establish a mechanism whereby when there are problems, they should be able to attend to them. I mean, if then the Gauteng government acknowledges that there is money that is owed to them, they ought to also then acknowledge that there is more money with other departments. So, for instance, you will have military, you will even have, which of course falls under national, but you will have other institutions institutions within Tshwane, because remember, Tshwane is the capital city. And as being such, we house a lot of departments that sometimes, education and others that are there. But then you find that there is absolutely no compliance on this part of the Gauteng government towards the services that have been rendered to them or they've received. And therefore, they should be coming on board and say, this is the total that we're owing different departments. So we don't become reactive when we approach these matters. We deal with it holistically. I mean, the other dangers are that you are dealing with a case. We are quick to forget in this country because we are so busy with so many scandals. We had a case of life Esidimeni where 144 vulnerable patients ended up losing their lives because of such bad and poor planning that then happens and eventually then affects the people at the ground level who are not actually the people who caused the problem to start with. Because if you switch off the electricity, essentially you are punishing the vulnerable and defenseless. You are not going to be punishing government because government, they are not using those institutions. They work there, they service and they provide services through them. But who's going to be affected when the lights are off?
Okay.
Who's not going to receive health care?
Here's the I suppose the twist though, is that where Tshwane is concerned, the EFF is part of that government of local unity. So it certainly isn't like in the case where you've got the EFF outside of the, the grouping or the coalition giving criticism. You're inside it.
Yeah.
So the issue of accountability and that recommendation surely has to come even from the EFF. What does that conversation look like on who needs to be held accountable?
Yeah, I represent the caucus position of the EFF, so which means even if we are part of the governance in Tshwane, that does not necessarily make us or dissolve us as a party. So this is the position of the EFF from the caucus and the party's position. And therefore, we are not going to take responsibility because our MMCs were not even part. I mean, in Mayco, they're able to discuss these matters. They've also engaged the mayor in relation to these developments. And the EFF is clear from that particular position to up to now. So we're not going to take collective responsibility on matters that really we are not responsible for. We should be judged according to our actions in government, not necessarily that we are part of some collaboration.
But who should be held accountable?
It's the mayor. The mayor is responsible because even that announcement that he has switched off Weskoppies, it is herself that announced it to say that she's on her fourth stop, if I'm not mistaken, and then she has just done X and Y. So the parties that are responsible should take responsibility. We can't, as the EFF, shoulder responsibility on actions that we never necessarily orchestrated or taken part of. So we have a fundamental problem when it comes to that.
Yeah, and then of course, I mean, you with that response, it's difficult for me not to then get into the politics of it. It was, of course, the ANC, EFF and Action SA that worked together to ensure that Cilliers Brink is no longer mayor of Tshwane and that it is Dr. Nasiphi Moya who sits in that mayoral office.
Yeah.
Do you still have confidence in her ability?
No, there is nothing wrong. I mean, that's why we are saying to you, this particular instance, we are distancing ourselves and we are not supporting these actions. But there's absolutely nothing beyond that because we're able to rectify that matter. I mean, if you check the MMC of Health in the city of Tshwane, Councillor Tsogofatso Mashabela, also tried to address the matter because she's ultimately responsible, even if this institutions falls under the government, but at least it's in Tshwane. So she was able to, of course, engage with the mayor so that the matter becomes resolved and amicably so. But beyond that, we have got absolutely nothing. No incident, a single incident should not be able to disrupt and disorganize governance because these things of removing this particular party or government, is going to take a lot of time to get even the other people on board and so on and so on. So it's unnecessary for us to overreact on the matter. Yeah.
At the same time, though, one of the, I suppose, the blotches on the work that's being done by this administration of Tshwane is the ongoing situation and how Hammanskraal water is concerned. The updates that you may have for us?
Yeah, look, I mean, there was a number of timelines that were put, and the mayor did report back on that to say that there are certain phases that have got the water, But we are still not yet done in terms of the Hammanskraal issue. But I believe that there should be a report coming back soon, because I think some of the deadlines were the month end of May. 2025, so we should be able to see how far they've been able to implement their plan to ensure that Mahali's water, because that's where we're getting a bit of water from, so that we're able to distribute it, and then people, of course, can drink clean and safe water in that part of the city. So
we've seen a few deadlines being missed, though. Are you confident of this one? Yeah,
there were a number of deadlines that were missed, because I mean, also you then appreciate that there was issues of rain, and then once there is rainy issues, I mean, we're told, you know, rainy conditions are affecting construction, and of course there's construction laws as well. So there was a meeting that the mayor had with Mahali's Water. I was part of that particular meeting, and the MMCs of the EFF were there as well. And then we were given an update. There was a delay of about 60 days on certain time frames. But we are confident that we should be able to deliver water. And by the way, we are not just speaking about this thing of delivering water. There are certain parts of Hammanskraal that can tell you that whatever that we've been promising has been fulfilled. Yes, there are others that are still lagging behind, but we're able to deliver to certain people just to give them hope and to make sure that whatever that we finish, as soon as we finish whatever part of the project and it's safer to deliver the water and let it run through the pipes, we do it as soon as possible, because there is nothing that brings indignity than people who don't have water. I mean, Hammanskraal unemployment rate is so high, and to expect them to buy bottled water, it's just a lot. I was deployed there. I was even worried to say, how do these people actually afford water to start with? Because you've got affluent areas, your Centurions, your Region 3, which is in the CBDs and so on. Those people, their unemployment rate is lower. However, they are not expected to buy water every time they want to drink. They just open the tap. But the ones that are having a higher unemployment rate are expected to buy water. So we are not happy with that situation. We are going to work and push that we ensure that people of Hammanskraal get clean and drinkable water from their taps.
Yeah, all right. Let's not forget that the issue with Hammanskraal is not just the cost of them buying water, but the cost of lives as well, as we have lost lives.
Of course.
In Hammanskraal. Godwin, we really do appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. Godwin Ratikwane there is EFF's Tshwane caucus chief whip.